Hey YouTube, it's EvanMagician34, and I have a neat deck for you. This is Fissure Gadgets, but it's got a few little tweaks. It's worth trying out. It's a cool deck. Runs 2 copies of Green Gadget, 2 copies of Red Gadget, and of course 2 copies of Yellow Gadget. So Gadget Suite with 2 each. We are running Fissure, so we're running 2 copies of DD Survivor. He's good for sinking, running things over, stalling, tributing, all kinds of cool stuff. But we're only running 2 because we only have the Fissures. 3 copies of Reborn Tengu because he works no matter what, no matter what's on the field, and he's good for all kinds of other uses. Speaking of other uses, to take advantage of those guys, we're running 3 copies of Deep Sea Diva because she doesn't care what's on the field, like in terms of removal or non-removal. She can make quick 5-star synchros, then she can make 9 stars with a recycled Survivor or Tengu, or she can just make 6 stars if she doesn't have access to your 3-star Sea Serpent, which is your Lost Blue Breaker, who can also pop a spell or a trap card with his effect, which is a handy bonus as well. To help us out, we got 2 copies of Tragoedia. Because of the gadgets, we can kind of keep our hand good, and we may hold back extra monsters too. So Tragoedia can be fairly sizable in this deck. And if you send things to the grave as Ixies materials, or if your Fissure's temporarily not on the field, you might have a monster or 2 on the field, so his ability to mimic levels is actually useful in this deck. We're running 2 copies of Caius the Shadow Monarch just to kind of keep our monster count and deck size slim, because we're already running a fairly big and tight deck. Obviously, we're running 3 copies of Dimensional Fissure. You can just straight up play it. It shuts down a lot of stuff. I'll straight up tell you, the fact that we rely on this card so much is part of why we don't run Thunder King Ryo, because Thunder King Ryo is one of the many cards that can't really function when Fissure's on the field, because Ryo's effect says he has to be sent from the field to the grave, and of course you can't use send to the grave effects when Fissure's on the field, which is also why it shuts down things like Valor and Herald of Orange Light, and all kinds of stuff gets screwed up by that card. That's why it's good. Now that said, we are running Heavy Storm. The important thing is to play this well. Play it before your Fissure to clean up lots of back rows, or if your Fissure, even if your Fissure is on the field, if your opponent has enough back rows, sometimes Heavy Storming is the right answer. You don't always have to have the Fissure, especially not if you're planning to go for game, but play it wisely. Don't just drop it willy-nilly. 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon that kind of supplement our Spell Trap Destruction, because our monster count is a little low, so we want to keep it safe. 2 copies of Pot of Duality, because we can afford to play the waiting game, and normal summoning is often our path of choice anyway. 1 copy of Dark Hole, especially nasty with Fissure. We're running 2 copies of Smashing Ground. Part of the reason we're running Smashing Ground is, well, obviously it takes advantage of Fissure because it allows us to remove from play things that might otherwise not be afraid of destruction. But also this kills Thunder King Ryo, because Thunder King Ryo on the other side of the field can be problematic, just because of his you can't search the deck effect, which messes up your Pot of Duality and your gadgets. So this can be a quick way to kill him. The 1900 is also problematic, so play wisely. We're running Mirror Force, big mass removal there. Torrential Tribute, more mass removal. We're running 1 copy of Starlight Road to protect us because we're going to have a lot of back rows, so this is good, and obviously we have Stardust Dragon to go with it. We're running 3 copies of Compulsory Evacuation Device because it's always good removal, and this deck relies heavily on its trap lineup to keep it safe. 2 copies of Bottomless Trap Hole to destroy and remove from play, so even if your Fissure isn't out, you can still threaten monsters like Master Hyperion and whatnot. We're running 2 copies of Dimensional Prison. Removal is a very powerful engine against most of the meta right now, but it's also just a good, doesn't say destruction, removal effect, so this can sometimes hit things like Zenmane. We're running 1 copy of Solemn Judgment. It protects all our back rows and can stop key summons and whatnot. We're also running Return from the Different Dimension, just because a lot of stuff's liable to be removed with Fissure, so you can flip this to make crucial big plays where you dump a bunch of monsters, sink a bunch of times, that sort of thing. That's the main board. Our extra deck is 1 copy of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier, and Mistworm, because we can make 9 stars surprisingly easily because of Diva. Mistworm can often lead to big game upheaving plays, of course, getting rid of big fields worth of monsters. We're running 2 copies of Stardust Dragon, so you can sink for it if you need to, as well as just get it off Starlight Road. 1 copy of Scrap Dragon. 1 copy of Red Dragon Arcfiend. He could be good for plowing through lots of defense position monsters, like against plants, let's say. You may be in a situation like that, like if your opponent's just used Dandy or something like that. Dark End Dragon, because he's really good when you summon him and you have Kais to get him out, and sometimes Tragoedia. But the idea is you can use him to get around anti-destroy effects like Gachi Gachi and Zenmain. Bryanak, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Gaianite, the Force of Earth. Flamvo or Kizis, just because we can make 6 fairly easily, because of our 2-star tuners and our recurring 4-star monsters. He's just another 6-star option, mostly. But he can be good against decks that like to set. Once again, plants is the main reason he actually made it, because you like to pierce over those set monsters. TG Hyper Librarian, Magical Android, Ally of Justice Cataster, and just in case you're X-seizing, number 39 Utopia, and 1 copy of the infamous Gachi Gachi Gentetsu. Alright, and that's the deck. And until next time, rate, comment, subscribe, and check out my channel for more cool videos.